Good evening. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Today is Tuesday, October 15th. May I have a call to order, please?
Mr. Kaling,
Present.
Mr. Quadro, Dr. Spencer Robinson.
Here.
Dr. Bonner,
Here.
Mayor Shira.
Sure.
Here.
Thank
I
you.
think she's on her way.
May we stand for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our mission statement.
The mission of Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School is to prepare students for social responsibility, employment, and post-secondary education through rigorous applied technical and academic programs.
Thank you. Is there any participation by the public this evening? There you go. Participation by the trustees?
It was a great pleasure to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony for the companion animal building last week. First and foremost, I want to recognize Tim Smith, who led the execution of this impressive project from start to finish. We're so lucky to have his knowledge and skills in service to building such a beautiful, state-of-the-art learning space on campus. What an accomplishment.
Thank you.
I also want to recognize all of the students whose labor contributed to this significant structure, and of course their teachers who equipped the students to successfully work on the project. And finally, I'd like to thank the staff involved in planning the ribbon cutting ceremony, which was such a lovely moment to celebrate the realization of our collective desire to expand our agricultural program. I'd like to report a few highlights from the most recent meeting of the Collaborative Educational Services on the Smith Folk representative to the board. Last month, they celebrated their 50th anniversary with a gathering at the Worcester Equatorium. You may remember that CES holds a Department of Youth Services education contract, so there are CES employees across the state, and Worcester is central. CES has free professional learning communities, or PLCs, in a number of content areas for educators and job-alike groups to share in problems of practice, develop ideas, and learn together about developments in the field. I'd love for you to pass that on to educators here. It's pretty much almost every content area. And learning AI in the classroom also. And they're free, and you can get PDPs if you pay. And then finally, Spiffy at CES conducted 4 focus groups with youth 12 to 18 years old to get input on how they see conversations with their parents on substance use. Interestingly, youth do not think they're having as many conversations about substance use as parents do. They do want to have these discussions, and they crave relationships with their parents that are open, trusting, and consistent. Similar to parents, they also said they don't know much about cannabis products and wish they were more informed. CES is sharing out the results to parents and planning to get more information out about cannabis for both parents and youth.
Thank you. I'd also like to report, I had the opportunity on Friday to go down to the Hampshire County Courthouse. Our criminal justice students were there with the history civics class, and the Massachusetts Supreme Court sat in Hampshire County. So they have 3 cases that they discussed, and it was very educational for the students to participate among that major event, which drew not only our students, but students from the University of Massachusetts and quite a few people that were just interested in watching them in action. So I did have an opportunity. My son Michael, who was a Superior Court judge, had an opportunity to come to that event as well. We were, in the beginning, they had a reception that we attended, and then we were able to sit through, and I have a program that gave all the positions of the people that attended as far as the judges in the 3 cases that they were hearing being held in our county. So the Supreme Court has to travel around, as the circuit court did years ago, and go to different parts of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and have hearings. So we had the opportunity to have them here, and Mr. Brewer did a great job organizing that, bringing in a bus full of students, and it was very orderly and worked out perfect. The other thing I'd like to report on is there is a group that is starting up to have a new alumni association for Smith Vocational alumni. Mr. Quadro and I had an opportunity to attend one of their meetings and the startup meeting. And I have to say that the people that attended are very interested in this job to try and get the alumni back together. This group has quite a bit of money that has been gifted to them as an alumni group to be able to have available for scholarships for our students in the future. So as they get organized and get put together, I also was able to put them together with Mr. Tom Fitzgerald from Friends of the Farm, which was a former organization for the alumni. So I was just happy to report that as well. Any comments?
Yeah, we have the exact same shirt on. That's scary.
No, Mr. Kaling said it perfectly. They were very well organized, and I think this is part of Mr. Kaling and I have been trying to push this issue. They've been trying to have events, and the last time they organized a dinner event here on campus, it fell apart. So we're trying to really get this back in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda is student representative report.
How's it going? So I've been a part of basketball, so that's why I haven't been here. But I have 2 things to report on, and then for next meeting I'll have a lot more. So for CJ, like he touched up on, CJ went to the courthouse to talk about the 3 rulings. From a student perspective, it was very educational. Like we all had a fun time. We learned a lot, especially for the people who wanted to become like lawyers or attorneys. It was a good learning experience. Also for CJ, we're getting ready for the freshman exploratory weeks. So the freshmen will come in for a week and just explore the shop. We're having an escape room. We're having some team building games, mock trial, fingerprints, and drones. So all of these things that we're showing to the freshmen are things that we've learned all 2 years and some of junior year. With the drones, we're actually unrolling the first drone curriculum on campus, and all the equipment has been purchased with the Perkins grant. And all the sports activities on campus all have successful records. Thank you.
Excellent.
So can you elaborate more on the drones?
Yeah, so that was just something that came up this year actually for us. And we started by taking a little slideshow that Ms. Marciniak actually taught. And with the slideshow, we got our recreational licenses. So we're able to fly recreational, which is only for fun. So
Yeah.
we can't do anything to like get money out of it. And then once we finish the exam, we go on a simulator on our phone. It's called the DJI flight simulator. And we have to show our skills on the simulator before we can go into these pocket drones. And in the pocket drones, each student is given one with a couple batteries for the drones and the remotes.
Mm-hmm.
And in our PTDT room, which is like a separate room for physical training, we have an obstacle course that we can fly the drones through and like just get a sense of how the drones actually work before we go outside and actually test out the.
So you're doing this from your smartphone, or do you have a keypad for the drone?
So
controls?
for the first part, it's on a simulator on your phone.
Okay.
But then on like the actual drones, it's like a remote control, like a physical one.
Yeah.
That you just fly the drone through the air. It's pretty cool.
And what's your height and your elevation now? I gotta imagine you're only can fly so low and so high.
Yeah, so for all drones, it's 400 feet in the air.
Very good.
Thank you. They're very detailed.
Yeah, we
How
had
do
to
you pronounce
register all
your
these.
Dominique?
Dominic.
Okay.
We had to register all these with the FCC, so.
Right. Yeah, so did, were the students involved in that or did the front office?
No, the instructors handled that with administration, yeah.
Julia's question.
I know that the adults at Smith Voc were disappointed about the field, the football field closing. And it seems like it was unavoidable, right, in a variety of circumstances. Can you speak a little bit about how the students reacted to that or how they feel about it?
So with some of my friends that are on the soccer team, they felt like it needed to be done for the field just because of all the wear and tear on the field. And they said that their performance would actually improve if the field was level. That was just speaking on what I've heard.
Yeah.
For me specifically, it doesn't really affect me because I played mostly indoors. But I think if once the field gets done, it would look pretty good, pretty presentable, and it'll have the sports teams.
So understanding among the athletes that it has to be done and it will be better.
Yeah, they know it has to be done.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and, I think Joe's report that he sent out to us made that pretty clear. The fields were in pretty bad shape. But your comment about the play would improve, but the unplayable conditions of the field are on both teams, so it happens to both sides of the field.
Yeah,
So,
and also with the field, it could cause more injury too, as the field's
Absolutely,
not well.
good point. All right.
Thank you. Next item, we have a motion, a second, to approve the minutes of September 17th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
School spotlight.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Lorena Turner, our adult ed director, to give the board an update on how the program is going tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I just have a quick overview sheet that I wanted to pass out so everybody can follow along a little bit. Okay.
Thank you.
So we had a great semester. Actually, this is exceeding any other semester we've done. No new courses, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but these are courses that we've offered in the past. So we have medical assisting, culinary arts, electrical code and theory 1, 2, 3, and 4. We also had the master's class going on, and phlebotomy, small engine repair, welding, and woodworking, all of which we've had in the past. Some of them we can't make more money because that's what we pay the instructor, and there's only so many slots that the instructor will take. For example, small engine repair, 8 slots, that's it. So it's always usually the same amount. Same thing with welding. Well, we're actually doing 3 sessions of welding. And welding, I should say, there's still spots left, so that might increase if people register between now and the next session.
Hold on. You got 15, you said you do 3 sessions of welding?
Yeah, I just clumped them all together.
Yeah, that's fine. But And you get this many students per each session?
No, that's
Thereabout.
total students that we have enrolled this semester so far for welding.
Okay,
So we had 6. We have another session coming up. There's only 3 students, so there's 3 more spots left. And then the last session in November, it's almost filled. It has 1 more spot left. So if this next session we only have 3 students, then it's fine, because we are able to pay the instructor the amount that we usually pay him. So it'll be kind of a break for him to just have 3 students. But knowing welding, we always usually fill it, so it wouldn't be a surprise if we
okay,
had.
I have another question, but I
Yeah.
think I'll let you go through your presentation.
Okay, sure, but anytime. So medical assisting obviously takes the cake for income, but I should add that this semester we had the healthcare hub grant involved. So Mass Hire picks a few schools in the western Massachusetts. It was myself, or here in the adult ed, was one of the schools, and then there were 2 other schools. I think Stick was another one, and Holyoke Community College wants to do it. They called me, but they didn't get it going. So they called me because they referred them to me to say, how do you do it? What kind of things, and whatnot. I just explained that, we are unique in the sense that we offer this as a semester class instead of, for example, the traditional, like what Stick does. It's a whole year and then you do an externship. The problem with the length of time that they do it is usually the types of students that we enroll in this kind of field just don't have the resources, the time, the commitment to be able to fulfill a whole year of training without having to work. And, a lot of these students have children and families that they seem to have a hard time balancing. So a lot of times students end up dropping out within that course of a year. I know I used to work in a school where it was that length of time, and you would start off with 25 students, you would end up with 5. So this was a different, approach. Let's teach what they need for the certification exam. Let's put them 160 hours out. That's a 4-week externship that they do. It's very successful because in a short amount of time, they can learn what they need to learn, take the exam, become certified, do an externship, and get on with getting a job. So it works.
Yeah,
And-
they
yeah, go ahead.
They get out in the field and they start getting on-the-job training too.
Right, absolutely. And that's the thing. And a lot of times we place them on externships that have openings. So what happens is it's really beneficial for all of us. So the student gets treated as a student over there, as an extern. And so that takes a lot of pressure off having to know everything, right? And the employer gets a chance to try them out, because there's no commitment, right? And then for us, we know they're participating in the training, and we know there's a job at the end, because that really helps us, because we report to Mass Hire. We have to let them know how many. Well, they will know anyway. They run reports and will know who's employed, who's not employed, for them to determine, does this training work?
Right.
So, and we've been very successful with that. Because we had 27 students enrolled, there was no way to fit one huge class in one classroom. There's just not enough space. So we had to break it down to 2. And that's where we lose money, because instead of just paying 1 instructor, we have to pay 2 instructors. But
Well, the good part about
Yeah.
that, you're able to have 2 instructors.
oh yes,
Able to have 2 instructors.
yeah, I feel very fortunate about that, because it's not easy to get instructors.
Yeah.
But we have a system and it works. And so we netted a little over 64,000 on that, which is really great. I want to add a really special thing about this hub grant. So this was provided separate from WIOA funding. So Mass Higher usually sends students with funding called WIOA, okay? But this time it's through the hub grant. What's really nice about this hub grant, which is actually funded by ComCore, is that there was extra money. So what they did is every student that participates in the hub grant, and if they're going into a training that's over 90 days, they get a $5,000 stipend. So each student here that came through the hub grant, which is all but 2 students. 2 students ended up paying for it on their own because they didn't qualify for the hub grant. So all of those students have an opportunity to actually get $5,000. They don't give it to them all at once. What happens is after 2 successful weeks of training, which has already gone by, we report to Mass Higher that they've completed successful 2 weeks of training. And then Mass Higher then reports to ComCore. In the meantime, the students get sent a link where they go ahead and apply. And once they receive confirmation that they completed 2 successful weeks, they get, out of the $5,000, they immediately get $2,500 sent to them with nothing taken out. So they are reminded that they need to set some money aside for when the taxes come due, and because it's considered income. And they also have to be careful because if the money that they receive puts them over the threshold to continue receiving their SNAP benefits, for example, or any kind of childcare benefit or anything that they receive, that's on them. They have to check with those prospective departments. We are not responsible to let them know whether or not they should get this money. So they have to do that research on their own. But they've all applied, and we've already determined the 2 weeks of successful completion. So they should be getting soon $2,500 deposited in their bank with the banking information that they provided. Yeah, and the whole purpose of that is so that, because this tends to be, a lot of students have obstacles in completing a program like this. Some have difficulty with childcare, some have difficulty with transportation, whatever it may be, or maybe they're not working so that they can just do the class and they need funds to pay their bills. Well, this is supposed to be a little advance for them to get a head start. So if it's rent that's due that they don't have because they're coming to school and they're not working, then so be it, right? So this is why they're giving so much after 2 weeks.
All right, I have a question.
Yes,
Lorraine, right?
Lorena, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What is this healthcare hub grant
It's-
that's sponsored, funded by ComCore?
ComCore, yeah, so ComCore has a lot of money.
Okay.
And
How much is the grant?
What is ComCore?
ComCore,
How much is?
ComCore is, I want to say with federal funds,
They're a grant management company,
grant
Grant
management
management.
company with federal funds
They're
that,
like a hedge
federal
fund.
and state.
federal and state, yep. So, I actually was gonna go a little more into ComCore, where we actually have a grant-funded program running right now. Our culinary program is through ComCore. It's
Okay, and so what dollars are we talking about? How much?
millions that they have.
How much do we have?
Oh, how much do we have? So what happens is, what they do is they fund their tuition, so that,
So it's variable?
so in other words, I didn't apply for a grant.
Okay,
Mass Higher applied for the grant.
okay.
And so they sent their students
Yeah,
here.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
they
it's
sent their students here.
It's based on how many students
Right,
you
and
get, how much
tuition-
money you end up
Yeah.
getting.
For medical assisting is $3,500. And they
Right.
paid for 25 students.
Wow.
Because 2 of them
Dollars
were
out.
cash pay. Yeah, so that was dollars for us, right? But,
Excuse me one second.
yeah,
You did a great job tonight.
yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you guys next month.
thank you. And, so, yeah, I hope I answered those questions.
Yeah,
Now,
no, you
medical
did. Thank you.
assisting, does have a lot of expenses, and I kind of did a little at the bottom, just kind of letting you know where money has to go. So
Right.
yeah, we did get all that money. We got 90 grand, over 90 grand, right? But over $3,000 had to go to textbooks. We had to pay out $15,000 for instructors.
Yeah, it's cost of doing business.
Yep, supplies, it wasn't too bad, right? It was under $2,000. Look at the certification exams that we pay for.
Well,
It's
that's
not cheap.
priceless in the long run.
Yes, absolutely, they need it.
Exactly.
But the $6,239 is not just for their certification. We actually purchase a study bundle for them. So the study bundle, what it is a study guide and 6 practice exams that they can practice to get ready for that certification exam, which is in December. So they need everything they can get to be most successful. Last semester, we had 100% pass rate in medical assisting. So we're hoping, it's hard to expect 27 students to pass all of them, but I expect at least 80% to pass.
And
But
what
we'll
was the
see.
percent you just said?
So last semester we had 100% pass rate.
100%, that's incredible.
Yeah,
It's-
but this semester, we have like a lot more students, so
You're
Right.
hoping
That's a
for
ratio.
80%.
yeah.
That's a ratio.
The other thing too that we have as an advantage, if we see a student who's just not performing, we have every right to say, you're not ready now, do not take it. So, we can give them an opportunity later on to take it, so that's also an advantage.
I'm blown away at how well you're doing here.
Oh, thank you
So
very
my
much.
other big question was,
Yeah,
you got this electrical code review and certification.
yes.
What about plumbing?
Yeah, plumbing was a big thing when I first came here. Unfortunately, I can't secure a licensed plumber to teach here.
To teach it?
And we pay them very well. It's not because of the pay, it's just no one has time. And believe me, I've talked to so many plumbers. I've
You've
cold
put out
called,
the net, whatever.
or sometimes employers call me. They're like, I have some students that I have, they need to continue on with their plumbing code and theory. I'd like to pay for them. When do you have classes? And I explain to them, I don't have an instructor. Are you available?
And they go, oh,
And they're like,
sorry.
oh, and they think about it and everything, and then they wanna know how much they're gonna get paid and everything, and nothing ever
Wow.
just seals. I don't know
So
why.
why do you think electrical you can manage to fill that role?
I've always asked that. I wonder why. And because electrical, we have so many more classes that we have to run
Yeah.
than plumbing we would. I mean, plumbing, I do 2 tiers a semester, but I don't know. I can say for electrical, I have 1 instructor teaching two of the code and theories, 3 and 4. So 1 instructor takes half. And then I have 2 more instructors, 1 teaches 1 and 1 teaches 2. And then I also have the one that teaches 2, teaching the masters. So they're booked.
Yeah.
But, as far as, if anybody knows of a plumber who would wanna teach, I would
Well,
love.
it sounds like
I've tried.
you tried.
I really
So
tried because
if
that
I
was something.
reach out, I'm probably gonna reach out to the same people somehow
Well, you never know,
indirectly.
I'm sure there's so many plumbers out there. A lot of them are just like, oh, I don't teach. Sometimes you think about it,
So they
they're a
don't
little
need
rough on the
teaching
edges.
Certificate, they just need to be licensed,
They need
right?
to be a master plumber.
Okay,
And and when we first started, we had our instructor from the high school, but it was too much for him because he's here during the day, and then at night he has a family, young children.
yeah.
So I could understand why he just couldn't. And I reached out to the other instructors and they just can't. So I was just at a
Right.
loss there, but I wish we can, and I would definitely pick it up if we could.
So let's see what we can do.
Yeah,
Chair,
absolutely.
I think Dr. Bonner actually has a question.
Sorry.
Quick
I
question.
missed
Oh,
that.
yes.
Because you have all these certifications, and maybe this is obsolete, for culinary arts, safe serve, or?
Yes, they do. So because culinary, and thank you for asking that, because culinary is grant funded through Concord, it's written in the grant, and that grant, what did we receive? $240,000 for 3 semesters to do. So it's all in matriculated. So anything that we order for that culinary class, whether it's supplies, uniforms, knife kits, textbooks, certification exams, all that, all gets paid for through the grant. So we pay for it, then we get reimbursed. And so with culinary, because it's grant funded, we don't really, when someone signs up, it's not like we get paid. However, the 18,800, the way I figured, we set a specific amount of hours that when we write the grant, that adult ed will spend 200 hours per semester, total of 600 hours for 3 semesters, and at the hourly rate to get paid. And so what happens is when we submit for reimbursement and whatnot, then that goes towards payroll to help fund my salary, and also the coordinator got written in. We have a new adult ed coordinator, and his name is Gary Lenchin, and we wrote him in the grant as well. So what happens is his salary also gets reimbursed, I guess you could say. Okay, and so that would be equivalent to what it would total. So does it pay our salaries? No, but does it help it? Absolutely. So that should be part of the money that we make, in my opinion. I would think, right? So, and I just wanted to kind of finish up by saying that we did try for new courses. Actually, oil heat technician, so from the bottom over here, I put courses that did not have sufficient enrollment. Well, oil heat is not a new course. Oil heat license prep, that it comes in waves. That's also funded by ComCore. We love ComCore. So what happens is the way it happens is the employers will send new employees to us to get trained for this, which is this is a unique course. Not a lot of schools have it. In fact, we're the only ones around that have this course. So employers, any kind of heating and plumbing that do that deal with oil burners, they will get new employees that they'll train. They'll send them to us for training to get ready for the licensure exam, which is a Massachusetts license, and they will pay for the course. They will apply for the grant. They will pay for the course initially, and then when the course is over, I send them a letter saying they successfully completed the course, and then they go and connect with ComCore and get reimbursed for the tuition. So that's it comes in waves. So we'll probably offer it in January. We did try an introduction to manufacturing. This instructor that works here was teaching it for Mass Hire here and other places, and he wanted to try it on his own. The only problem, it's not that we didn't get students, we didn't get a lot of students, and I tried to work with him as far as, would you be willing to, it's only 3 students, so would you be willing to do it for this amount? And he said no. And I understand that, I respect that. It's just unfortunate. Sometimes when instructors want too much money, they're setting themselves up in a way, because we have to have so many enrollments to be able to pay them, even if we broke even, right? And then the startup food service business, this woman is, that's what she does. She helps people set up a food business, and people pay her, and she wanted to do a class on it. I thought it was a great idea. We didn't get interest. I don't, but it's such a small, specific niche. I don't know if, who's trying to start up a food business, right? Maybe you get people who are curious and maybe dream about owning their own cafe or their own restaurant or their own whatever food truck, and they could take the course even though they weren't really ready, but we just didn't get any interest. I told her I'd be willing to try it again, and if she decides. But that's pretty much it.
Nice job.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes. Applaud.
Any other
Doing a
questions?
fabulous
Yes?
So is 9 really kind of the minimum number of students that makes, I see there are 4 classes that have 9.
No, not necessarily. Like masters, we could take way more than that.
No, is that, but is 9
phlebotomy
like the minimum that makes sense?
No, no. What the minimum is, it will vary
Mhm.
because what we do is we calculate what we have to pay the instructor, any supplies and other expenses, and then we hope to make something. But I have never canceled a class just because we didn't make anything.
Mhm.
If we could just break even, it would be worth it. That's how I started the medical assisting program. When we first started, no one knew about it. We started a class of 4. And you know,
Today.
yeah, it was just like, let's just try to get the word out. It worked.
Yeah.
You know, it was, sometimes we just have to work our way up. And it all depends on the class. You know, what's the tuition? What's the instructor asking for? Because it's negotiable. You know, and if their bottom line is their bottom line, then like in manufacturing, then I just can't do anything about it. Yeah. But
Thank you, Lorena.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank
Good
you.
job. Thanks, Lorraine.
Okay, no problem.
Sure.
Good. Good evening, everybody. I just want to remind the board, many of you have been around long enough to understand adult ed came back several years ago, and the board was willing to provide a loan to basically get the adult ed program off the ground, and we were really struggling those first few years. A, to just stay in business, and B, to try to find the funds to repay the board. And then when I see a net proceeds of over $123,000 in one semester, it blows me away, so.
So I guess the big question is, did the board get paid back?
Yes, it It was an investment, Rick.
And it's such a wonderful resource.
Oh, no, I was fully supportive, absolutely. She's done a fabulous job.
So, with that said, let's move into my report. I'm not sure I have that great of news, but we're gonna try. So under instructional leadership, I do want to share with the board what's happening at the department of ed level. So DESA came out a few weeks ago with some proposals, looking at frameworks within our vocational shops across the Commonwealth. Typically, their practice is to seek out instructors in a particular shop. Those instructors come together, they review the frameworks, they provide recommendations on updates to those frameworks to make sure that all the Chapter 74 programs remain relevant to today's industries. So it's a great practice. So the department is working on that. But with that work, they're reviewing the Chapter 74 programs, and they're making recommendations to potentially make a decision on not expansion or actual closure of certain Chapter 74 programs. One of the programs on that list we happen to have, and that's cabinet making. So I want to thank Ms. Chartier and Mr. Bianca. We reached out to the cabinet making instructors, the 2 that we have. We let them know that this is being discussed at the state level. And there's a process for public comment. So we shared all of that information with the 2 instructors, and timing is perfect. Tomorrow night we have our program advisory meetings. It is on their agenda to talk to their advisory members about this is the discussion at the state level, and perhaps their advisory members also want to submit public comment feedback. So I just want to share this link for the board. It goes, this one of the reasons why I shared the presentation with the board ahead of time, so you'd have this link for you to use personally or to share with your networks. I just want to scroll quickly down to the bottom of this site.
I want to jump in here. I actually talked to an industry player. He has a architectural woodworking shop in Westfield, and he represents Westfield Tech on their advisory. He hadn't heard of this yet, so I got him in the loop. So you have information about how to comment?
Yep, so the link I shared in the report, I recommend you share that link.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the bottom where I'm at right now, there's a link, it's called comment form. And if you just click on the comment form, that's where the individual, anybody, just fill this form out.
When Caitlin, this was already emailed to us.
I emailed it last Thursday.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, again, as we hear more news from the Department of Ed, I'll share with the board. Hopefully they come to their senses.
Come to their
Realize that,
senses.
cabinet making is still a viable industry, especially in this particular region. The very next day after Mr. Bianca spoke to the two instructors, one of the instructors came to us with the current postings within Indeed. So just one posting site for cabinet makers, there was 20 to 30 current postings in the region.
In the local area.
And starting rate was very, very good.
It's gotta be
So
$30+ or more starting rate.
$20 to $30 an hour to start. So great starting pay, a lot of openings, there's the need. People can ask why. I can't answer the why for the Department of Ed. I have my own personal opinions, but anyhow. Okay. The other one's just because it's in front of me, cabinet making, which is really pertaining to us here at Smith. But the Department of Ed is also looking at stationary engineering, fashion technology, sheet metalworking, and power equipment technology. So those are the Chapter 74 programs that they're planning.
I think your professional opinion does matter. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing it now, tonight here, but it's very relevant to our existence.
My professional opinion is political. And, when we are looking at vocational admissions and we are looking at limited seats and we are looking at, it's not Dr. Bonner, but, our colleagues across the state, traditional superintendents have a lot of pressure with their school committees to maintain enrollment. And anytime a student chooses to not stay in the home district and go to a vocational school, that is money away from that traditional district. And there's a lot of pressure for the superintendents. I truly understand that, I respect that. So I think there's a lot of pressure for the traditional districts to figure out ways to maintain their students within the home districts, to maintain those budgets. We all know where the budgets are nowadays. So any way that the masses, and again, as a vocational school, we are well outnumbered. I think there's 26 or so of us in the state. We are outnumbered. And if there's a way for traditional districts to convince DESE that can we maintain our students, DESE's gonna listen. When it comes specifically to cabinet making, I think the argument that is being made with cabinet making specifically, I can't comment on the other ones, is that some people in the state feel like cabinet making and carpentry, which are two standalone Chapter 74 programs, there's a lot of similarities in the eyes of the people in the public. That a table saw is a table saw, a circular saw is a circular saw, you're dealing with wood. So let's
They don't have CNC machines out on the job site.
if we get rid of cabinet making, carpentry is similar enough, we can just have carpentry. I know myself, I've been in those conversations with counterparts, more when I sat in Mr. Bianca's seat as a principal here. We would have nearby superintendents calling me up to say that we're not gonna send students to Smith because we have, for cabinet making, because we have carpentry back in the home district, and it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. So I think that grounds well. There's a political
Yeah, well, let's
piece.
give a little bit of background history too. When I was involved earlier in the years, cabinetry, it was carpentry, and it included carpentry and cabinet making as one shop. And then some years ago, they separated the shops in infinite wisdom, and I actually wasn't a big fan of it at first, and then I realized they're two different industries. Carpentry, you're out in the field building houses or working on a construction site. Cabinet making, you're in the shop building furniture, cabinets. You're using state-of-the-art, different equipment. So where I'm going with this is they separated the programs years ago. Now they want to shut down and combine them back together. Makes no sense to me. That's it.
I welcome the board to either respond as a board. I
I
recommend to
think
the board
we
to,
shall do that.
there may be an agenda item at some point. And I also recommend just as an individual citizen or obviously your network contacts to share that.
You give the information to Caitlin, put together a letter, and we'll all sign it. We can ask you to do
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would the letter come back to the board at the next meeting?
I was going to propose during the new business part of the agenda that I would be willing to draft
Sure.
a letter on behalf of the board that Dr. Lincoln Hoker would review before it was submitted. But the deadline for submission is before the next meeting, and I wasn't able to prepare a draft in time for tonight's meeting.
All right,
So that's what I would propose during the business.
great, thank you.
So that's the update on cabinet making. Again, any new news, I'll share with the board. NEAAC, I'm going to give you the very, very short Cliff Notes version. And I know Mr. Bianca has a presentation of his report. But yes, NEASC did vote to continue our accreditation, but we are to remain on a warning. And again, Mr. Bianca will go into those details in a little bit. The admissions policy, it is on the agenda this evening to vote to not update, but to approve the annual admissions policy. This is part of the new regulations from the Department of Ed. Again, in their infinite wisdom, they have a deadline of October 1 for the superintendent to submit the admissions policy that has been voted on by their school committee, or in our case, the board of trustees. We have complained to the Department of Ed every year since this, that October 1 is way too short. Many school committees have multiple readings of policies. Many committees don't meet over the summer, so to have a deadline of October 1 does not make sense. So yes, we are past the deadline at that point, okay? We are not the only school. There's been some emails amongst my colleagues. I'm saying there's at least 7 or 8 of us that have not been able to meet this October 1 deadline. It is on the agenda tonight. I'm just letting you know that what you have in front of you, there is no changes. I'm not recommending any change to the policy that we had this past year. So what you see is what we practiced last year. Okay. Under management and operations, like basically 3 updates on a few different projects that we have. Our horticulture building, I try to give all of you an update. We are getting progress finally, but just not at the rate that we'd love to see. So every week we meet. I want to thank Mr. Quadro for attending most of those meetings. We met earlier today. Kiter provides us a 2-week look ahead. So basically what is on their task list for the next 2 weeks. They're continuing to work on the foundation work. They're going to begin to do backfilling of the foundation insulation, sheet waterproofing of the foundation, the underslab plumbing and domestic water. So they're making progress. If you go down back, you go see it seems like the 4 walls are poured. So we're moving along. Unfortunately, the delay that we experienced over the summer when they first started breaking ground and they found all of the unsuitable soil, that caused a great delay in the work. We went back and forth. We finally came to an agreement between the design team of SMMA and Kiter as a general contractor. We're finally moving forward, but that delay has really caused issues with the project. The first issue is now, looking at the schedule, the pouring of the slab floor, okay, is not scheduled until early December. And we all know what happens in early December in New England. It gets cold. And cold and pouring concrete, they don't mix, no pun intended. So we may.
But it can be done.
It can be done. Obviously, anything can be done depending on how much money we want to spend. So to mitigate some of those potential cold weather issues when we go to pour the slab, there are ways to deal with it, but it is going to cost us. And in the ballpark, we haven't received any hard firm numbers yet for me to share with you, but the numbers I'm hearing could range from $20,000 to $30,000 to maintain the work site and have it warm enough so we can pour the concrete. So just sharing with that. In addition to, when we fast forward to the end of the project, when we want this to be done, we knew that we had a June 30th deadline when it comes to all of the grant funding. We have to spend by June 30th. Right now, if you look at the schedule, the official end date when they turn the keys over to us right now is scheduled for August 4th. So that could be an issue when, coming to how do we pay the bills in July and potentially August.
Well, you're going to have to pay everything out, and I think that can be worked through.
There's issues with the grant,
Okay.
services that we haven't received yet.
You can't pay it until the work's
There's
done.
issues, yeah, that we have to work through. So I shared that with the board. I'll keep the board updated. So The budget concerns, speaking of the money, I am working with the EOE, that's the Executive Office of Education. They're the ones who oversee the skills capital grant money that we have for this particular project. And EEA, which is the Environmental and Energy Administration or Agency, they're the agency that gave us that 1.2 million at the 12th hour. We've had some dialogue and some hiccups, and we're trying to work through to make sure all of that money remains coming to us through the cash flow. I won't get into the weeds, but we're working through everything. So we have that we're trying to work through. We have the delayed, again, I already mentioned the winter conditions, and the change orders that we've had to deal with have cut into the available contingency funds that we've had. So again, we had money set aside in case something happened. Unfortunately, several things have happened already, and we don't even have any walls up. The one I mentioned, the unsuitable soil caused some issues. The other one, just serve as a memory check, the electrical main going to the animal science building that we knew was there, but nobody really knew exactly where it was. It was running right through where the new building was going to be, so we had to move that, and that cost money. So we're running out of the contingency funds, is my point. And again, the walls aren't up yet.
How much is left?
A little over half in round numbers. Between the winter conditions and the soil, that's 100 grand and we had 200 plus. We were conservative with that, because it's really not complicated building in a lot of ways. The unsuitable soils hit us hard, obviously.
We received some credit, thank you to the city with a generator, and to Tim, as an example, the generator aspect of the job was part of the job. We've been able to pull that out, thank you. So that there's a credit coming back to us through that. And Tim's gonna deal with the concrete slab that the generator will sit on. We're handling that in-house. And we're beginning to look at some design discussions, are there things that we could, if necessary, pull out of the design if we have to? We're having those conversations, but I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
The companion animal building, I'm not gonna go into the details, all of you were there, but I thought it would be worthwhile to share with the board and the public a nice story that Channel 22 did on the event.
Yeah, somebody.
For you.
A vocational and agricultural high school in Northampton held a ribbon cutting ceremony for their new companion animal building today.
22 News reporter Kiara Smith explains what this new space means for students in their animal science program.
Nixiara Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School is where many students go to get hands-on experience, and now they have a new space to enhance their learning experience with companion animals. The Companion Animal Building is the newest addition to Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School in Northampton. This new building allowing the school to expand its animal science program. With a growing student body, the superintendent of the school says having more space was essential to give students the learning experience that they deserve with companion animals.
Having this building open up today is going to give the experience with some small animal, so our dogs and our cats, which is very popular here in the region. And as you can imagine, how many people have cats and dogs at home? Our students can learn how to deal with them and work with them now. So it's a great opportunity for our students.
It took 2 years to bring this building to reality, and it all came together with the help of the students.
Because we're a vocational school, we have electrical, plumbing, carpentry, woodworking, so we have everybody in-house that contributed to this, where they're able to come in and do the wiring, put together all the electrical, the carpentry, as well as putting the roof on and foundation.
This new space has been the vision for the school since 2017. And here in this new building, students will get the hands-on experience with grooming animals like cats and dogs. One student in the animal science program says she knew she wanted to work with animals from a young age.
It's always been my heart and dream to help animals. I want to explore with smaller animals because I want to become a vet. So I think it's a nice opportunity having the chance to explore with the smaller animals.
School officials say that the students are used to working with their livestock and large animals, so working with companion animals would be a fun and new experience for them. Working for you, Kiara Smith, 22 News.
Incumbent Senator,
Nice.
getting you prepared for the weather is what we do.
Yeah, definitely a great day. Thank you to all of you for being there, participating, helping, and again, backing us with our vision and a monetary help as well to get there. So lastly, the athletic field, all of you are aware. I want to give the board just, again, background and then next steps on where we are. So over the course of this fall season, we basically lost the practical and safe use of the football and soccer field. And I'll share some photos in a bit to show you what we're looking at as of last week. So we shut down the field effective this past weekend. I had to update this date. We are looking to, we're scheduling the reseeding of the field for later this week. So what does that entail? We're going to be contracting out. They're going to be slice seeding with an athletic seed mixture. They're going to apply some additional seed, lime, and the starter fertilizer will also be done at the same time. We're having the irrigation system. We had some issues with it. We're repairing all of that in-house.
Who's doing the work, Andy?
Champion Lawn Care. Champions, I want to say it's Lawn Care.
Never heard of them. They local?
Out of Granby. Been in existence for about 40 years.
Great. Okay, thank you.
So we're repairing the irrigation system, and so once the field has been reseeded and all the other additives, we'll immediately start watering it as well before the winter comes upon us. I do want to thank Mr. LaRoe and Mr. Bianca. They've been working in essence around the clock, trying to find alternative sites for practicing games. That includes JFK and East Hampton. So again, thank you, Dr. Bonner, for allowing us to, even have access to another field within the city. In fact, today, related but unrelated, I was talking to Director Lascalia from the DPW, and she was just sharing with me, from her vantage point, the fields within the city are at a premium, it seems like, across the city. So us losing our field definitely does not add positive news to the overall equation. So the more we can work together, the better off I think we're going to all be. So thank you. So the plan right now is to keep this field closed for the spring season. So we've gotten that word out, and we do offer lacrosse in the spring, so we're going to have to again find alternative sites. I shared that with Director Lascalia earlier today. More bad news for her to figure out as well. But again, we'll work through it. Okay. I do want to thank Mr. Bianca, Mr. Quadro, mentioned the communication that went out once we made the decision. That communication spawned a lot of feedback. I think Mr. Bianchi needed a couple of mental health days, based on a lot of that feedback. It was, he heard a lot of opinions, okay, that he had to work through. But he also received some positive feedback as well. And, the general understanding that we had to do this. Some ideas and some suggestions and some recommendations and some offers to help. One of which was we received a large donation of topsoil that we're actually applying as we speak. To fill in some of the low areas that we have at midfield and then down in either end zones or like in front of the goals or the soccer field. So I want to thank Mr. Bianca for that communication and the follow through to have that. As we know from the horticulture building, dirt is not cheap nowadays. So to receive a donation that we did definitely helps. Also, internal staff, they're aerating the field prior to, just to try to, increase the odds that this new field is going to take. And moving forward, this is a learning moment for me, and I've shared this with the leadership team. I was somebody who really didn't want to say no to anybody who came to us asking for access to the field. I've always said yes. That's one of the variables I think that came into play that caused the field to turn the way it did. Just overuse. The field never had a chance to sort of rest and take that time out. And we're going to have to begin to do that. We have to prioritize our athletic programs. We are growing. We need to make sure that we have a playable field for our student athletes. It is a shame. We've had a lot of spectators. We've had a lot of visiting teams. Other vocational schools, when they come to us and they see our field and they realize we're a vocational school, basically how dare us, have a field the way it is if we're a vocational school. So it's not a good look. So we have to, and I have to do a better job prioritizing our needs, and we may have to say no to some outside groups.
Yeah. Couple questions. This subcontracting out the repair of the fields at Champion Lawn Care. What is the cost of that?
It's about 6,500
$6,500?
approximately, yeah.
That's reasonable. And you absolutely gotta keep it closed. What you're doing this year is not gonna take.
Correct.
You're gonna need the spring season. Yeah.
So does that 6,500 include, the seed and?
Everything, right?
Seed, fertilizer, lime,
And the
split seeding.
sprinkler head repairs.
Sprinkler head repairs we're doing in-house, so Tim was able to buy the parts that we needed, and the horticulture class has already probably done 2/3 of it,
Perfect.
maybe 75%.
Even better.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had Andy, you had a conversation with the director of DPW
Yes.
about city fields.
Yes.
Well, the Spring Street fields are in unbelievable shape, and they're mainly used for softer things like youth soccer, which doesn't beat on them so much. And well, where they are is old riverbed. A lot of good topsoil. The fields are very lush. And they have an irrigation system. You would possibly look at mentioning that to her about lacrosse, maybe getting a field lined up for lacrosse in the spring.
I thought Mr. Bianca's communication was very good. It's hard to send a message out that is like that. That's going to be difficult for folks to hear, lots of folks in the school community to hear. And I thought there was enough detail and explanation that it was easy to understand why that decision was being made, and I wasn't overwhelmed with information either. So I thought it was really a great communication on a challenging kind of issue. Do we have a girls lacrosse team in the spring, so we'll have those two?
Yeah, they used to be combined in the onset. Now you have enough participation for both.
Yes.
Perfect.
And if I can, just on that topic, is that okay? I just want to give Jeff a lot of credit, Mr. LaRoe. So for football, he was able to secure East Hampton. So we had hosted East Hampton for a couple of years while they had their turf field built.
Right.
And they have agreed to host our November 1st and our Thanksgiving Day game, because they'll be up here at Northampton High School on Northampton. So I do want to thank Jeff and East Hampton for that.
So hard to tell who to root for when they're playing Northampton. Both teams.
Some photos. Again, I apologize, trying to take a photo through a chain link fence is never easy. But just a couple photos of last week of the construction site for the horticulture building. As you can see, the foundation's been poured. As of today, all 4 walls have been poured.
That's exciting.
Which is great. So you have moving along. These photos, all of you had the opportunity to see this last week. This is again some photos of the Champion Animal Building. Can't thank everybody enough.
Spectacular.
It's looking great. So here's 3 photos of the field from last.
Regarding the animal companion building, I asked Melanie about its use, and it's for in-staff only at this time.
Correct.
And what's the thought about reaching out to the public to bring their dog and cat in?
Not yet. I think we.
Well, I understand, not yet.
Someday, I think we have to work through some of the liability concerns that we have, looking at insurance implications.
And have you had staff bringing in their dogs and cats?
Not yet.
Not yet.
The students haven't gone through the training part of the program yet.
Okay, when could that potentially go online?
Probably near the later part of the spring.
I do have a little concern in regards to bringing this facility on, and we have a history of things, in my opinion, not being utilized to their full extent. And I don't want to get into a lot of detail on that. There's 2 things I'm thinking of, the VA property and the food truck, and I don't want to see this facility similar type of thing.
I think, if I can just jump on that, but I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, and that was a lot of our in-house money that was used. for that project. And I think it's vitally important, not only for our own staff in here, because other departments didn't get a new building. Other departments are looking at that saying, wow. And I think that in order to prove that it's being used correctly, that we have to show or put timelines together so that they know left hand, right hand, what's happening. I think it's vitally important because the flashback you got on the field and different things, I don't want to see that happen with this building on you or Andy, because the internal money that was spent, I mean, it's just a fact of life that everybody's looking at it. And so I think utilization, as quick as you can bring it up to speed, to spread that word to your staff is
Well,
just
it's not-
saying the Board of Trustees is looking at it,
Yep.
commenting about it. We'll take the heat on it from the Board of Trustees.
Well, it's about safety for the students and for the animals that come in. So there's a specific prescribed training the students have to go through to be able to handle those animals. It's not just what we might do at home with bathing and, we're talking about all the pruning and clipping and styling. We're talking about cleaning. We're talking about safe handling. We're talking about the pet CPR. There's a lot of different things that the students have to learn. So the way the program is designed is that students in the third trimester of junior year start that concentration. There'll be students that'll be going through a series of those. So once it's up and running, they'll be exposed to it at the end of ninth grade. When they choose their shops, there'll be additional coursework that they do in 10th grade and 11th grade that's embedded. When ultimately for them to pick it as a concentration, it'll be their third trimester of junior year, which is the spring trimester. So it's a matter of going through now and starting to lay the foundation for all those while trying to get seniors who are interested in the program in there. But there's a prescribed progression before they're going to be handling live animals, especially dogs they don't know. There's a lot that you have to think about when somebody brings an animal that isn't familiar with them and they're not familiar with that animal. So I hear the board, I understand what you're saying. I share your concerns, but there is a progression.
They're very well stated, Joe, and I appreciate that and fully understand it. But like, you understand where we're coming from,
Yes.
obviously, and that there is a progression. And I would think that some type of, and whatever you want to call it, news release on how you're handling this would be good for the community. Because I don't know, what are people thinking?
Well, every department is on-the-job training, and that's one thing about a vocational school, is that they have that opportunity. And I think people will look at that as an on-the-job training type of position. And I know that you went through the good dog spot and had training done there. The teachers that's coming in, it's not a lot of training, a few weeks, whatever. But I think whatever you can do, Joe, to dial up the training, to expedite it, not to have anything bad happen to kids or the animals or anything like that. Just know that it's the top of the hip parade. Thanks.
And I want to respectfully distance myself from this. I don't have all the information that I need to be included in the board putting pressure on administrators or instructors. So I wouldn't want, if you're communicating anything about the board, it's some members of the board until we vote on something. As a board, I understand that there are a lot of factors in play in an educational setting, and that education is first and foremost the clinician, and compliance with the state standards is of utmost importance.
Yeah, I understand where the board's coming from. I just think realistically, if we had just started an electrical shop and you said, why aren't you wiring the school?
Yeah.
It would be understandable, right? We would understand that progression. So there is a progression in this also. But I do understand where you guys are coming from, and we have every intention to utilize that.
Thank you.
No, thank you. But I'd like to comment on Dr. Julie's comment about putting pressure on the department. I don't think we're putting pressure on the department. We're just telling you what we think and that. And, we've been fully supportive of all your roles and what you do and what you have to deal with. And you explained it very well on the progression of getting them up to speed. So I appreciate that.
I just would like to maybe respectfully disagree that you did ask them to sort of expedite this and move this as fast as possible. So, I mean, this is a classroom,
Yeah.
right? This is an educational institution, and the primary purpose is teaching students. So I think we need to keep focused on that and whatever needs to be done to teach these students what they need to know in the space that we've created for the students.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
another
so-
distinction, I understand the concerns that were raised from about other programs. Another distinction about this particular program, what Mr. Bianco was alluding to with if we were creating a new Chapter 74 program. Even though companion animal is not a standalone new Chapter 74 program, as I mentioned during the ceremony, it's a concentration within the larger umbrella.
Yeah.
In essence, it is kind of a new program to the point where we actually did hire a staff person to oversee this particular concentration. And that is different than the other concerns that were raised by some board members. And those concerns that the board may have that we are underutilizing other equipment or other resources, staffing stayed the same. So in essence, it was an add-on to the existing staff. And that's where we have to work through some of those concerns that were raised by the board, which are relevant. In my eyes, with an instructor on board, getting that instructor up to speed and then to get all the students up to speed, I cannot imagine this building being dormant. But I think we have to go through the process. Even thinking to Crystal, going through the insurance process, there's been some hiccups along the way before we can even allow any animals in that building. So there's a lot of discussions that have been happening behind the scenes. There's more discussions that have to happen to make sure that we're crossing all of our T's and dotting our I's. But at the end of the day, we are a school. And the last thing we want good PR, I understand that. But having a student misbehave or treat an animal in the wrong way or get hurt or that animal get hurt, that would be some PR that we don't want either.
Right.
So.
Thank you. So I think it would be beneficial to send out some type, like I said earlier, news release, however you want to word it, what the process is, so people know, like you just explained. I think would be
We have open
relevant.
house in a few weeks now. A few weeks, and we're gonna have a campus full of outsiders, middle school families coming to tour, and this would be a new building that they're gonna be touring. So
Yeah, and maybe if you even had something posted for this tour of the progression of the program, as you described.
Will you be doing newsletters again?
Mhm.
So maybe in the newsletter, you could just say, we expect, the
Yeah.
students are training, and so
And this is the process we
in
need to go
the
through.
spring, or, hopefully in the spring, we might be able to
Right.
invite them.
Thank you.
Thank you. So these photos, again, not the best quality, taken in the morning, but I just want to share with the board, if you haven't had a chance to physically walk out into the football/soccer field, the upper left-hand corner, just sort of a view that a lot of us have, sort of big picture, you don't really see a whole lot of detail. The middle photo is a quick snapshot of all of the topsoil that we had received from East Long Meadow last week, I think it was.
And hold on, you have enough to do the job with the soil, Joe?
For what we need to do, we need to fill in the low spots.
You need
and
to
we
create the crown for us.
Well, we can't really create a crown, so the way that field was designed was to maximize water runoff away from the buildings and the
Sounds like kind of
yeah,
slanted.
it is. So if we crowned it, we would ruin the runoff, which is something that we learned from
Right,
this
right.
process. And
So yeah, because I know when we were here,
yep,
a week ago for the ribbon cutting, the thought was you crown it, and so when you got into it, you realized couldn't do it.
yeah, your traditional fields are crowned,
Right.
so we were looking to do that. And when Mr. Ansbach and his team went out there with the surveyor equipment, and then we looked back and had conversations with Tim, we realized that it's really pitched away from. Yeah, it's not that perceptible, but it's over the
Oh,
course
yeah.
of 400 feet, it's 30
Right.
inch drop.
Sure. Right.
So we would ruin the design.
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
It should be enough to help fill in some of the low spots that we have, which will definitely.
No, it should be awesome. Come
Now,
next
lower range-
fall and you're,
And that lower right-hand corner is just more of an up close. If you're actually out in the football field or the soccer field, look down, it's basically
dirt.
dirt. That's what it is.
It's dirt. No grass.
Dominic was saying, just the health and safety of our athletes. When you're playing soccer in dirt, it's not good for anybody. And lastly, we've talked about various projects on campus. I'm sure Tim may even mention some of these, but I thought a visual might be nice for the board. On the left-hand side are a couple photos of what we call the Pocket Pet Lab. That's the former classroom down in the MS barn. As you can see, a lot of the cages are being set up. We already have our rabbits down there. So that would be the home of some of our small, again, pet store type of animals.
The interior of that space is just beautiful.
And again, thank you to Tim and his crew.
All right, so Andy, the lower right-hand photo,
So I got that.
what,
So that
is that like a pen?
So that, the lower right hand is in the basement area, the basement elevation of our dairy barn.
Okay.
That's where the dairy cattle used to be milked. So again, thank you to Tim and his crew. We needed a home for the pigs, as I
Yeah,
mentioned
that's
during the
the
ribbon
pigs,
cutting ceremony. So there's been 2 beds that have been created in that area for our pigs. So that's what you're looking at there.
All right, now, I know this is a little offbeat, but you had a sign out for the open house for the farm. That was Saturday, is correct?
That's correct.
There was no date on that sign. And I know a number of people drove by it, and I said, well, my sister actually brought it up and said, you know, there was no date on the sign. And I said, yeah, you're 100% correct. Did anybody else ever notice that? Because before, usually a big date. So what was the turnout for the open house?
Turnout was really good. It was also on our front sign, but I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, the sandwich sign out at the
Yeah.
street had no date and no time. What was it, 10 to 2?
Yes.
I didn't come by this year. Last year was fabulous. You had a great year. I mean, a great day.
Yeah, I'll talk with FFA about that.
It was a good day this Saturday too, right? Yeah.
The upper right-hand corner, again, thank you to Tim and his crew, continuing the red metal siding project that we have with all of our agricultural buildings. So that's what you probably saw last week at the ribbon cutting ceremony. We've been out the old siding, putting some plywood underlayment up, and then we'll continue with the metal siding, which will really improve the look of the MS barn. So that's what you see there.
Looks so sharp.
That was fabulous.
Getting closer to Essex Tech.
It's in my mind.
Family and community engagement, thank you to the mayor, great segue. The newsletter, the first one went out in October. Really the focus on that one was welcoming the families back, talking about attendance, transportation, sort of, you know, topics that our families are important for them to understand how they're gonna get their child to school. And then around attendance policies that we have. So that was the main focus. Then we had, I know Mr. Bianca is going to talk about Mr. Onspach, highlighting him. I want to thank Heather Bruley, Health Service Director. She has some great information from the cafeteria. And then, as Dominic said, we're having a great fall season athletically, and then some important dates. So that went out to the community back in early October.
I'm gonna put in a request next year for a September newsletter.
Yes.
Great to welcome families.
Yes.
And, I know you had a very full plate this year. Want to acknowledge that, my understanding of that.
I know Mr. Bianco mentioned this past Friday, we had our annual college and post-secondary fair. It grew so much in interest from the colleges that we had to move it over to the gymnasium, which is great. So I'll let Mr. Bianco comment on that. And then under professional culture, we've talked about this over the last several years, but we have an internal review process, which really ensures our academics and our vocational programs, you know, we're just reviewing them on a cycle to make sure that we're, again, making sure that the curriculum is aligned, making sure that we're teaching what we're supposed to be teaching, making sure that the resources and materials that we have are relevant. And I just wanted to take a moment and share with the board, this year, on the academic side, we'll be looking at PE and health. And I know it's difficult to see on the screen. If you have an opportunity at home, you click on the link, you can see the rubric that we use on the academic side that they will be reviewing themselves throughout the year. So that's what this is for. And then the same thing on the vocational side. This year we'll be looking at carpentry, graphic communications, culinary arts. So those are the programs that we'll be reviewing this year. And if you click on a link, you'll see the document that those particular shops will be looking at and reviewing themselves over the course of the year.
It's such an important process, and it's not done by every district in the state by a long shot. And it's just so valuable for the learning experience, right, to continually review.
And it's a self-study, so it's not the Department of Ed coming in, it's not NEAS coming in, it's that particular department doing the work, which is,
And the protocol that's made available is excellent.
yes.
So by your comments, Julie, I'm assuming that we're not mandated by the state to necessarily do this.
That's right.
It's internal.
Thank you.
I already mentioned, but officially I want to recognize Brian and Leanna Hennessy. They're the families who donated the 120 yards of topsoil for the athletic field. The backstory, they own a trucking company, I believe it is. They have a contract. East Long Meadow has a new school building project, and the Hennessy's were responsible to remove all of this topsoil off the construction site. They had to find a new home for it. Ms. Hennessy happened to read Mr. Bianca's communication and thought, it might be a win-win here, and that's how we were able to receive 120 yards of topsoil. So, let's see that. In the news, they say, Mr. Bianca is a former history teacher, people say history happens to repeat itself. So 50 years ago, just for comic relief, I just want to read this. So 50 years ago, Smith's Vocational High School trustees received a consultant study yesterday, which recommended expansion in the construction of a major new vocational school here, which would cost $5.75 million. The major goal of the project would be to add students to the total enrollment of the school, to increase vocational departments, and improve physical conditions of the institution.
All right, so which building was built? This one or?
I think it was this one.
Okay,
This
and
would
what
be
was,
back in
where's
the-
where the gym building's built? I mean, house.
What's that?
Where the gym is, what year was that?
Same year. It was all one construction.
It was
One project.
Okay, it was one, this building, and that?
Looking ahead, just to kind of touch on a couple of these, as I already mentioned, we have our program advisories tomorrow night. Next week, I just want to remind to the board members, several of you will be at the Smith College Community Breakfast next week. Next Thursday, I'll be down, several of us will be down at our MOB, our board of directors meetings, general meetings. October 30th, a reminder to the school community, we have an early dismissal for the teachers to have their professional development on the 30th. Open house, I already mentioned, is Sunday, November 3rd. I welcome the board members to be there. We're getting the word out. We'll be prepared for another wonderful day. Having middle school families on campus learning about the school, and hopefully they will be applying to the school. On November 4th, we have our, I think it's quarterly now, the Department of Ed assigns a liaison to each of the schools. So we have our liaison meeting on the 4th. Another reminder to the school and to this community, we have no school on Tuesday, November 5th. That's election day. We are a polling site, so we close the campus for that purpose. The rest of that week, several of you as board members will be down at the Cape for the annual MASC-MASS Joint Conference. We come back the following week. There's no school on, I think it's Monday, November 11th for Veterans Day. And then before you know it, November 19th we'll be here and we'll be back together as one board. With that,
I know that you had, obviously as the president of MAVA, an important role and immediate past president as well. Do the vocational superintendents all tend to go to the MAVA meetings? Will you continue to be attending them?
Yeah, so I've now eliminated some meetings off my plate, no longer being an officer, which is great. But the board of directors, so in the MAVA bylaws, the board of directors consists of all of the superintendents of vocational schools.
Okay.
And if you have a comprehensive, take Chicopee Comp as an example, technically the Chicopee superintendent would be a board member. However, he or she can delegate that role to somebody within the district. Oftentimes they'll appoint the vocational director of that particular district. So it's, as MAVA, they call it the CEOs consist of.
That's a similar model to the collaborative, which has a representative from each one of
Yes.
those member districts.
So when I say board of directors, that's all the superintendents.
Yeah, got it, thank you.
And then the general meeting is, the rest of the administrators, there's a larger meeting, more breakouts.
Yeah.
So,
It's such a great organization to support
yes,
vocational
it definitely
education in the
helps.
state.
With that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Hold on, one quick question. Open house is 11 to 2 for the
Yes.
general public. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just go through and do the brief principal's report, and then Dr. Lincoln Hooker, I think, is gonna bring up the slides around NEASC. So our current enrollment, 587 students. You can see our by grade enrollment currently. As Dr. Lincoln Hooker said, the fall open house is scheduled for November 3rd, 11 to 2 p.m. We have families registering online to be able to take part in the specific tours of the 3 clusters as we break it up. As of today, we have 398 people signed up for tours, which at this time is an increase of 187 over last year. Our advertising has begun on social media, and we've printed postcards, so we're doing that mailing again at 3,600. We get using census data, we're able to buy purchase mailing addresses for for families that have students within the middle school grades. One of the things we did drop this year was the movie theaters, although we got feedback with the amount of people signing up and the applications over the last number of years. We felt that $2,000 was better spent elsewhere. We didn't really feel we needed it. If we see a decline, then we would probably look for ways to reinvest into some other advertising.
Excuse me a second.
Yep.
I think that was probably a wise move because everything's streaming so much these days. But I've seen the ads in my weather apps. I use the Western Mass weather app, and when you look at the daily, there used to be a banner.
So that was part of that.
I thought was pretty effective because a lot of people use the local weather apps.
Yeah, that was part of that same package,
It was part of the same
Yeah.
package?
the same group, yeah.
Okay. So you had coverage in the movie theaters and on, say, the
There was-
weather app sites?
There was certain advertising that it linked with in
Mhm.
different apps.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, another question.
Sure.
Are registered online for specific tours of clusters, so highlighting on, say, a couple shops?
So what we did in the past, when I first got here, when Dr. Lincoln Hooker and I were first here, they would do complete tours, which took like over an hour and a half.
Yeah.
People would get bogged down.
Yeah.
What we did around the COVID is we went to cluster tours. So we have a construction cluster, we have the service industry cluster, and then we have the agriculture auto cluster.
So 3 clusters?
3 of 5 programs.
Yeah.
It generally takes about 35 minutes. So if families want to see more than one, then they're able to sign up for 2.
Yeah.
Some people, if they're really good and they jump on, they can still do all 3 if they want.
Right.
But yeah, we did that because some of the feedback we got from families also was, they were really only interested in X number of programs or seeing certain things. So this allows them to really target their experience. We still do the complete tour, but that's for new student orientation at the start of school. So that's for the families and students who have chosen the school and have enrolled. When we do the new student orientation, then they all go through a complete tour. That way, all the programs are on an even footing.
Okay, and then as of today, we have 398 signed up, okay? I imagine those are in groups, so you actually have more people? Is that 398? There could be 2 people
It
per
could be
each
me
one
with
of
my
these.
son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right, that's what I thought, thank you.
No problem. We are able to get in certain schools still to do presentations, and some of them we're forced to do it after school, or we're forced to do it by sign up only. Currently, we have 56 applications in our system for 9th grade, which is an increase. So we're looking pretty good at this point in time. We had our Geej Wiles presentation. Geej comes in, and he has a message that he talks about, and those are the 3 key points. One of the things that they do, the students do a bucket list with him, and then we give that copy back to them when they're seniors. And they can kind of look at where their mindset was when they were freshmen, and were they able to get anything off of that bucket list. I do want to highlight James Onspach. He was celebrated at the Big E. That was on Thursday, September 19th. Mr. Kaling joined us and the groups of students that were there. He was honored and inducted into the Big E Massachusetts Building Wall of Fame. James has been overseeing the creation of the horticulture display that's in the back of the building. Some years it's been inside. We've been highlighted. We've actually done it inside the building, a display, and he's been doing that for over 20 years. And MDAR really is the ones who oversees the building and the grounds, and they named him their 2024 recipient. His picture is going to be hung for 1 year, and then he'll be added to the perpetual plaque, which is pretty amazing.
Just to add, Joe, that was Ashley Randall, who
Yes.
was our speaker, and the head of agriculture commissioner
Yeah.
gave James the award, so that was pretty special also.
A pretty amazing honor.
Yeah, I didn't go to the Big E this year. I missed it. I had no idea. That's great stuff.
Fantastic recognition. You must be really proud.
Yes, yeah, I think he came at a good time. College fair, as Dr. Lingenhooker said, we had that on October 11th. That's for our 11th and 12th grade students. So we break them up into groupings and they come through. We had over 40 schools that came this year. You can see just a quick list of some of the schools that were able to be with us. Personnel, just to give you an update, we did hire an ag mechanics teacher, Albert. He started today, and we've hired an electrical instructor, Dave Argy. He'll start on November 4th, and that brings us to fully staffed.
The college and post-secondary fair, was that open to students from other schools? Are they invited, or is that just for Smith Vocational?
That's just for us. So a lot of the, what ends up happening is our name goes up on a list. So I want to thank Miss Alberti, who was able to put us on a different contact information. And a lot of these reps make the ground. So like a few of them I know are talking with them. They were at Pope Francis the day before. I know others are scheduled to go to Hampshire Regional, and so it's usually the school counselors of that school are overseeing that with administration. And there's a road show of college reps that circulate, but this was just for our students.
I'm just struck by the numbers. There are 143 seniors, and we are a trade school.
Yes.
And 40 colleges and universities came. I guess there were other options too, but how many? I mean, that's a lot of colleges and universities for a pretty small number of students. Wow, that's all I wanted to say.
And we do expose our juniors to it early.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we try to hit home with students was the Mass Educate plan that was, passed. So really,
Community colleges.
yeah, for community colleges. For our students, that maybe they want to start their own business, they want to take finance or business classes at community college for free. It's a really great extension for them, for some of our shop programs that are going to help them, really move into entrepreneurship.
Of course.
So.
I'm thinking of the four-year schools, and I'm wondering if it's a reflection of the declining enrollment and they're competing for fewer students.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
But it's a wonderful opportunity for our students to be able to go to this, absolutely. And also a chance for them to practice their professionalism,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Meeting the representatives from wherever.
Question, Joe. Miss Devine, what's her role in the big
She's
picture?
she's our guidance department head,
Guidance department.
and she serves as the admissions counselor.
We'll go on the committee reports.
I just
Oh,
have
I'm
one.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I
that's
just want to
what
give
you
you the update on the accreditation.
Yeah, that's right, sorry.
No problem. So I should have printed this out, but it's behind you on the screen. I apologize for not making copies. So we did receive the letter on September 27th. The commission's outcome is that we will remain on warning for accreditation. That's right, you do have the letter. So I'm gonna hit highlights from the letter on here and then give you a little bit more context. Commendations, that's listed on the front of that letter. So some of the things that we did receive commendations on. Some things I wanna highlight is the high student retention rates, MCAS scores, graduation rates. consistent growth in programming, which also included, remember they're doing a 10-year look back. So they're looking at, we brought in the AP initiative, so that we were able to increase some of the challenges for our students. We got credit for maintaining things like Project Lead the Way. Over that 10-year period, we added 3 programs. So there was growth and opportunity for students. If you want to go on to the next one, Dr. McNulty. Another thing that I would like to highlight that they gave us kudos on too is Ms. Wanzik has been able to really bring in that student support system and grow that. They see that through the STAT process and through other programs that we brought in. We have added adjustment counselors, another counselor. So we have a lot of programming. We added the school psychiatrist. So there's a lot of things that we've added and that sort of bring us in line with larger districts so that we're still able to give those services to the students. So priority areas for growth, this is somewhat of a collaborative process. So we identify areas that we view as collaborative areas for growth. And then they look at those, they either agree or disagree, or they give us additional ones. If you look at the first 3 that are up there, these are all also on your second page of your letter. These are really what I would say school level. The last 2, I'm sorry, all of these, I apologize. I did split it. So these are really what I would call school level. And ensuring the community and district provide school buildings, facilities, that's a shared requirement in my mind. Creating and implementing facility plan is a shared requirement. If you go to the next, these are the 2, which I said were shared, that I also feel fall on our district level. Because there's funding and other governance issues and decision-making that's really above school administration, so, the high school administration. So those are areas that I really think the board is gonna have to assist us with and potentially take the lead on.
They're in our district improvement plan.
If you look at the next slide, this is foundational elements. This is the 2 main things that we have to correct from NEAS perspective. So one is, and I did underline for emphasis, we do have written curriculum. So we have written curriculum, but they want to see it in a consistent format. And I do understand that. So, they're looking at what is that consistent format for academics? What is it for vocational? If parents, outside organizations or groups want to look at that, advisory boards, are they going to be able to follow it because it's always sort of following in a similar pattern? So that's what they're looking for there. Obviously, the school site and plan support, that's a much bigger conversation than high school administration can handle. But we are able to handle the foundational element around the consistent format of curriculum. So what actions have we taken already or we will be taking? So I've already worked with the director of curriculum and we've approved a template for the academic side of the house. That's already been disseminated out. So any new curriculum that's being written will be using that format, and over time, over the next couple of years, we'll have the existing curriculum transferred and turned into the format that's been approved. Vision of the graduate, so that is one of the areas that was identified as, let me just turn back to it so I have it, the wording. Ensuring that the school's core values, beliefs about learning, vision of the graduate drive student learning, professional practices, learning supports, and the provision and allocation of learning resources. So one of the things that we've done as an extension of that is I have an implementation committee that was formed this year. So we're looking at areas of opportunity. Our first survey went out to staff last week, and I resent it again today, just trying to get feedback from staff on ways that they're already identifying how the vision of the graduate can be really drilled down into their lessons, their units, their classroom activities, their classroom procedures and routines. And then we're going to disseminate that back out. We're also looking at ways that this can help change and impact high school procedures or protocols that we do. And then I'm also hoping that comes out of that is some potential policy changes that can be brought to the policy subcommittee, where we think that the vision of the graduate might need to be embedded in, and then that would become something that would rise up to the board level. once we get through the program advisory, because they redid the co-op banners, once we update the banners in the hallway and we get through open house, I'll be working with graphics and the students in there to come up with some sort of a design competition or design way to get them to start taking the vision of the graduate, the words, and really turn it into infographics, either into one giant one that helps people better understand the vision holistically, and then being able to break down language. So some of the feedback that we did get from staff is some of the language is a higher level language, and how do we break that down and make it more meaningful to students? So that is another area that the implementation committee will be looking at.
Hold on,
Yes, sir.
quick jump in. You're tasking the graphics department to create some vision more. Describe that again.
Yeah, sure. So I can, at the next meeting, if you like, I can bring examples from other districts. So as a vision of the graduate, the first phase of it is to draft what does it look like, sound like when a student graduates here. So it's all those languages.
That's what the document that we.
Yeah. I'm going somewhere with this.
So then the next thing is how do you turn that into something visually appealing that makes sense? And so infographics, really what you're talking about is pictures, limited word, symbols, symbology, or other things that take the heart of that information and start to break it down into ways that people can look at and it makes sense to them.
No, I like it, and that's kind of where I'm going with this is, I think I've brought this up before, I know with Andy, I think with you too, Joe, is task the culinary department and even the whole school community to come up with a signature dish for the food truck, no matter what it be. Something that we put our name on.
How does that relate to vision of a graduate?
Because it's creating something, it's tasking the department to be creative and do something. I think it's very relevant.
He's dovetailing it.
Yeah, thank you.
I was thinking you were talking about like banners, infographics, things that
Yes.
have the
Posters.
language.
Yeah, so
of
how's
the
it
vision
different when you come to the food truck? Look, Smith Folk has a signature food item, not just a cheeseburger, not just a French fry. Big E has the cream puff and other things, so that's all.
And then some of the next steps that we'll have to do beyond that. So there are some specific steps that NEASC requires. So we do have to, and this is a little bit different than the high school district improvement plans that get drafted. This is a school improvement plan or action plan that's just focused on those priority areas of growth. So this would be a separate plan that has to be addressed. At the high school level, we'll be able to handle the school level priority areas and get stakeholder input and draft a high school action plan on those. The district level, really, that's gonna have to come back. I would defer to the board on that. Those would then have to get packaged together, and that final action plan needs to be submitted to NEASC by February 1st. And then approximately a year later, they'll come back on campus, and really they're judging us against our action plan. Where are we with the things that we said we were gonna do, and why or why not were we able to make progress? So that's where we stand with NEASC at this point.
Dr. Bonner, is Northampton part of NEASC as well?
So, there's been a lull in our participation with NEASC for the high school, and it is hopefully going to be rejuvenated this year.
Okay, because that has come up before our body as well. Whether the participation, return on investment, and what we're spending and what's happening, the amount of hours that you're spending with your staff on this one project is really a lot. And the dollars, I mean, what are we spending?
In the normal off year is about 10,000, I think we get to NEASC for our annual membership.
Yeah, I remember 10,000 being the number.
And the actual, when they come on site, for those 3 days, that 10,000 turns a little higher. We're paying for hotel and
We're
travel.
paying for them to be here.
Right. Well, we talk about repositioning
Return.
money. No, I mean, using that money for other things within the school body. Return on investment is worth it. And I think it does bear evaluation.
It sets a standard. It also causes your staff to be reflective in their practices. helps to guide and shape the direction in which they're going. So there are some positives to it.
Mhm. Thank you. Julie, Rudy? No, okay. Kim, you're up.
Not much left to say, but,
So why are you still here?
yeah. So in the dairy barn, we're making those 2 farrowing pens. We're gonna take that, we took the old barn boards off and put FRP board up on top and
Yeah.
epoxy the bottom. So when the weather warms up next spring, we'll probably carry that around the barn, and we'll take that 100-year-old dairy barn and turn it into something nice, and easy to clean and maintain.
You set up yourself a high bar with the other work you've done.
Oh, he's become an expert on epoxy work, haven't you? And then I assume there's washout drains in these areas that you just literally hose the place down?
Yep, it's all floor drains that go outside the barn into the line, yep. So we've been trying to get our rebate money for the mini splits that we put in Seabold a year ago. And I think we're a little closer. They came out and inspected it finally, so hopefully when that money comes in, then we can start the final planning for next summer to integrate the 2 systems, our boiler system and the mini splits, to make them work together.
That's all controls.
Yep, but we want to kind of get rid of all the pneumatics. Put the
Okay,
heat
so
recovery
it'd all be
system.
digital?
Yep.
And probably smartphone based, literally?
Be web-based off the
Yeah, okay.
but we worked with Ben. We think we got a good plan. We just need to get this last money to be able to fund it.
What is the rebate money coming back, Tim? How much?
I think it's 48,000.
Wow,
So
nice.
Yep.
And you're confident it's gonna happen? They've done their due diligence?
we have the engineer has his plan. We're trying to work with EMC, who has done all the other Johnson controls on campus, and have Jim do his part. How are we going to integrate this? And
Yeah.
I think it should work out. It should be a good system when it's all said and done.
Excellent.
I don't know, if everything else is,
We'll keep rolling.
keep rolling.
Crystal?
Rolling.
So the final FY '24 appropriation detail is included. The grants in the revolving account is not included. That, pardon me, that, we're using an outside vendor to create that report. And I've actually enrolled in a self-taught course to help, so I don't have to keep reaching out to the outside vendor and I can do this myself. Crystal Reports is very difficult to use. So I do have one final meeting with him tomorrow, hoping that it will help expedite the learning process. The FY '25 reports, nothing new there. The city capital projects were submitted on the due date of October 4th. Dr. Lincoln Hoker, myself, Tim Smith, and actually our IT director will be meeting with the capital planning committee on October 30th from 11 to 12:30, which is a little different. Normally it's in the evening. So we'll be, I did include a list of the projects that we did submit. This is the old format the city used, but I figured I would just keep using it just for illustration purposes. So these are the, working of course with Tim and Dr. Lincoln Helper and Mr. Bianca, just different ideas of projects that we would like to see funded if possible.
Thank you for doing that earlier than usual this year. We're trying to get bids in
It was wonderful.
earlier.
It was definitely, yes.
Be more competitive with them.
And meeting during the day is.
Yeah.
So you're happy with that?
Yes.
Good. Yes.
I responded to Charlene.
Good, I'm glad.
We're all happy about that.
So these are the projects.
These are the projects, correct.
Gotcha, that we are proposing,
Correct.
that we hope will be funded.
Correct.
Okay.
The, of course, the end of year report submitted on September 30th. Will be, I'll be waiting for the outside auditor to reach out to come in and audit that. I did include the city indirect costs, the sheet that the city finance director shares with me. In the beginning, it's just an estimate, and then at the end of the fiscal year, she will give me the actuals for the insurances, workman's comp, different things. Not all of them are based on actual, some of them are just based on budget. So I just thought it was important to share that with you as well.
That's what we use for our budgeting.
We use that, yes, that's how the city helps make, yes, for spending. The student activity audit was completed, again by Skill and Associates. I'll be meeting with one of those auditors, to go over a few questions that I have, for the final report. And last, audit of the grants will be, it should be any time the outside auditors are at the time working with the city, auditor's, office, and then we'll be, making a date to come here to audit our grants. And I believe the ESSER grant is still gonna be the in place. The first of 3 tuition invoices will be mailed this week. And we have 1 invoice left over from FY24 that we need to do.
I saw that on Trustees.
Any questions?
I want to make sure folks know that these are all the warrants that I'm signing off on electronically at the beginning of the
Right,
packet
right.
there, so if you want to browse them, very convenient for us here. Thank you for making this also clear.
Yes. A lot of info, Crystal, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Under new business, may I have a motion and a second to approve the 24-25 admissions policy?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the FY24 invoice just spoken about by Crystal. United Site invoice $385 to be paid from facilities revolving.
So
So second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the vote to approve the following surplus from facilities, 3 vans, 1 forestry truck and 1 pickup truck. From physical education for scrap, 3 foldable stationary bikes.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the last item we have, may I have a motion and a second. Discussion, possible action vote for the district improvement plan.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
What
ahead.
you see in front of you is not a lot different from what you saw before. So
Right.
it's a new proposed, all of this is based on the vision of the graduate
Yeah.
and then our discussion of the needs of the physical facilities on campus, right? So the first column, Smith Voc graduates are professional adults with a high level of expertise, knowledge, and competence in the field. Second, Smith Voc graduates are creative and impactful members of their locations and communities. Third, they're communicators. And then the fourth is facilities and learning environments are safe, sustainable, and conducive.
All right.
21st education, wait, hang on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you there. So these broken down, as Mr. Bianca said, there's a lot of language in the vision of the graduate. And at our strategic planning retreat, we pulled out some of the key phrases that we thought helped clarify those and kind of bring understanding to those larger ideas of the vision of the graduate. The strategic initiatives below that, those aren't different from what you saw before. So the idea that we would administer surveys to students and educators to understand the extent to which they're professional, creative, impactful, and good communicators. And then over in that last column is the feasibility study, right? And then on the next page.
Hold on, please, Julie.
Sure.
No disrespect. What has changed from the last?
We're getting there.
Okay.
So
So then why are we keep going over stuff?
because it's been a month.
Okay, thank you.
So the next page is the, I took the campus-wide initiatives, the program and department initiatives, and the individual initiative from Mr. Bianca's presentation to the faculty at Convocation. So this idea that all of those 3 areas would be implemented in all of these ways, right? and then the last column is the same. So now we're into new territory under outcomes. And this is maybe a lot to go through, and I won't read it. I'll give folks a chance to read it now. It can just take a few minutes, but I will tell you that this came from Ms. Chartier, Mr. Sabonis, and Mr. Clark, who provided all of this, these more specifics, outcomes breaking down.
All right, again, so Ms. Chartier.
Yeah.
Mr. Sabonis,
And then Josh Clark.
Josh, the assistant, right?
Yeah, the two assistants.
The two assistants, yeah.
So just to make sure the areas of concern for NEAS are represented, at the district level are represented. I know the facilities one is addressed, but there was the second one. Well, they're both facility related, so once you do the, thank you, it took me a minute. Just, so it's nice that it's already aligned with our thinking and our movement forward, so that should help in the write-up for your February report. Okay, just wanted to make sure that it's represented.
Okay, in the, you said the feedback, that's the outcomes here from Ms. Chartier, Anthony and Josh. What about Mr. Parks and Ms. Wanzik?
That was what was shared with me. So I think they were tasked with this.
And they're the ones that brought this to you.
Right, to Dr. Lincoln-Hooker,
Great.
who shared it with me. He and I worked on this together. But you can
Thank
see, just sort of going through in terms of being professional.
Yeah.
The third one, co-op placement, retention, and performance reviews. So how many of our students are training on the job, receiving positive feedback from employers or supervisors?
Oh, nice work.
You're welcome. And it's in so those, as I said, a real specific picture of what we think our graduates the outcomes that our graduates will experience here.
So, it seems pretty complete document at this point. Can we make a vote on moving it forward tonight?
That's what I hope that we would adopt it.
Perfect.
I make a motion that we adopt the district improvement plan as written.
I second. Further discussion?
I'm just gonna, further discussion?
You're sharing, right?
Yeah.
Just checking.
I had to remind them.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I have one more item of new business, which we spoke about earlier.
Okay.
I am willing to draft a letter to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regarding the potential closure of cabinet making. And I would.
I think if that's gonna go up between all our
Well,
signatures, we need to review it.
So, okay, so then we won't be able to get it in time. So
We're already over the time.
No, we're not.
No.
No.
That one
That was the commission's policy.
No.
No.
So
What?
in order to make it by the deadline, so I'll propose this, and we can do them individually also. I'm perfectly fine writing a letter just for myself, if you all want to write letters for yourselves.
I want a letter to go out from all the trustees, that's what has the impact.
Right, so that's what I was thinking, and so what I'm proposing is that, Mr. Bianca shared, input from the two cabinet making instructors that I would incorporate in the letter. I heard tonight, from Mr. Aquadro, the support for it being, that they're two completely different industries, and I heard some evidence for that in what he said.
Well, and also brings to the point that they separated this shop some years ago.
Yeah, that's
It
what I
was a
mean.
combined shop carpentry.
Right, that's what I mean. And the two cabinet making teachers included some statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I will as well look at that. They are combined in the BLS statistics. But I would invite I would include all of that, invite other input now that you would like to see in that letter. Share it with Dr. Lincoln-Hooker before I submit it, so his eyes can be on it.
Perfect.
And he can make any changes or
And then
recommendations.
we all sign it.
And then it would be signed, I think by me on behalf of the whole board, and then submit it in time.
I'm fine with that. Mr. Kaling?
Okay, that's what you want.
Well, we need to move and.
Yep.
Let's,
Well, I'm ready to move for that.
and then Julie's got the facts. And I admit, she's a great wordsmith. She's helped me with a lot of this stuff. So I have full confidence in the facts being covered.
I think that we're all in agreement with the desire to keep that particular shop open.
I agree.
I don't think that we're in any conflict there.
No, that's fine, we need to get it for that too.
What is the deadline date again?
It's, if we pull up that link, I think it's.
I know it's later in the month, but we're closed, right?
I wanted to have something for tonight, but it was a really tight turnaround. I couldn't drop it.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. All right.
Okay, so future business, October 16th, Program Advisory Committee meeting, 6 o'clock cafeteria. November 3rd, open house, 11 to 2. November 6th, our MASC Joint Conference in Hyannis. That's through 6th to the 9th. November 19th, regular Board of Trustees meeting here at 5 o'clock. December 17th, regular Board of Trustees meeting here at 5 o'clock. And January 21st, regular Board of Trustees meeting, 5 o'clock.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Yeah, it's 7
All in
o'clock.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.